Chris Schafer is a multifaceted individual with a diverse range of interests and talents. As a skilled suit maker, he has a keen eye for detail and a passion for crafting bespoke garments that exude elegance and style. Beyond the world of tailoring, Schafer is also an accomplished drummer and performs in his new punk band Glass Fault, bringing his energetic spirit to the stage. His adventurous side is evident in his love for skateboarding, a hobby that keeps him active and connected to his youthful roots. Additionally, Schafer is an avid car collector with a particular appreciation for classic and vintage models that showcase his refined taste. His philanthropic efforts highlight his dedication to giving back to the community and supporting various causes close to his heart. Whether it's through fashion, music, skateboarding, or charity, Chris Schafer embodies a unique blend of creativity and generosity. Stick around, as always, after the episode for our segment Live at the Lounge featuring Chris on the drums. Welcome, Baltimore, to another episode of Sanity Lounge. This week we have a very special guest in the studio, in the lounge, I should say. Christopher Schafer, clothier.
Nice.
Hello.
This is a man of many talents. He is a suit maker, fashion designer, car collector, drummer, philanthropist,
Definitely.
humanitarian, skater car collector. I don't know if I've missed anything.
I think you said that already.
That's a lot of stuff.
Motorcyclist.
Motorcyclist. And we're going to get into a lot of these things as we go on.
These are a
Absolutely.
few of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Chris, you and I, like most of these guests, have never met. Well, we did briefly meet last week,
Yes.
but I'm very happy to meet you. You look at me, you say no way, but style isn't my bag. And never has been. That being said, my father was always a sharp-dressed man.
Yes, he
and
was.
I love good clothes.
It's
I
funny
really
you
do.
say Sharp Dressed Man because he has a program called Sharp Dressed Man.
We do.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get into that because I just recently, I guess because I knew you were coming on, I just saw something about Sharp Dressed Man. What is that? Is that still around or
Well, it was a great video by ZZ Top.
other than the ZZ Top single?
It is the name of our nonprofit organization where we recycle suits to dress guys for job interviews.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, maybe
That's
get this a little
awesome.
bit closer to everything.
absolutely. Yeah. However you want to be comfortable.
Yep. Yeah, we take clothes that people don't need anymore and we give them to people who do need them. And we suit up about 2,000 guys a year for free right now. And things have been kind of rolling again. COVID was a weird kind of time, but we won a grant through United Way to buy basically like a UPS truck that we made a mobile boutique that we can take out to different places and bring a truckload of clothes out to help people in different
Wow.
areas. So
That's is that like nationwide or just local?
no, we're just in Baltimore right now, but we're in Baltimore. We did have a shop in LA for a little while.
Right.
And then we now with the name of the vehicle is the Sharp Dress Van.
Right.
So
That's awesome.
So we take the Sharp Dress Van out on the road.
Right.
And it's been interesting with that because we've helped out some people just in different neighborhoods around Baltimore who would have never came to our facility. Our facility is right down by the Hanover Street Bridge, but sometimes like we've been up in like Highland Town and stuff, and just people wouldn't have come through the tunnel to us, or we've done quite a few things on the Eastern Shore as well in DC, and so you can take the show on the road basically with this. So
that's fantastic.
That's incredible. Good for you.
Thank you.
Now, have you always been willing to kind of like get in the trenches like that with that kind of work, or
Well,
just kind of occurred to you because?
Well, what happened was that I was going to see a client of mine that I made new suits for. And when I did, he tried on the suits for me, and he had a couple trash bags in his office that were full of other clothes that he had that he didn't want to go and throw away or anything. He said, you spoiled me with the way you make my suits fit. I don't want these old clothes anymore. Find a home for them. Oh. And that was how the whole thing kind of started, sort of organically. But no, I wasn't always into philanthropy and everything, frankly, I needed to kind of figure my own self out before I could help to anyone else. And that's
Well, you obviously
a whole
did,
nother story.
Right,
That's good,
you obviously did that, which might mean or might make you want to be like. That.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
what is it? Those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it, right? So it's like, so I'm like, I had a checkered past.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
So life is good now. I want to keep it that way. That
You
was
look
good
good.
seeing
that's
Wheel.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I've known Wheel for a long time. You
How
know,
about
he
it?
saw me in some of the wild days. So
That's
it's good.
wonderful.
Me and Brian have had our wild days ourselves.
Yeah.
He well, I'd say jump ship, but he jumped ship a long time ago.
I've been sober since '98. Off of very hard stuff.
Yeah.
And, but we've probably chewed some of the same dirt. Speaking of Chris, speaking of Chris Wheel, let me ask you this. Where Davis, you will remember this. He and I went to see the Grateful Dead in 1991.
93. Yeah.
Okay.
That was with
And
Sting.
The Sting show,
yeah.
right. And as we're there, we come across my old friend, Scott Brown.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Now,
you
I
know
heard,
Scott Brown?
Now, I heard you were in a band with
Oh
Scotty
yeah, I was
B.
in a band for years with Scotty B. Yeah.
What was the name of the
And
band?
the band was called Groovement. He was the bass player, and I was the singer in the band. And yeah, we played together for a long time. Scotty B and
What?
Bam, baby!
I still love that riff, man. Yeah. Still hits, man. There you go.
I never heard this.
It's badass.
This was recorded at Oz Studios on.
That's so funny. We talked about that.
Oh boy, good job.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Chris.
That's Scotty B.
Singing?
Me and him. Wow.
That's
I
amazing.
still love that riff, though.
No, that
man.
was
I
great.
love that riff.
Well,
That's a
look,
great fucking
I had
tune.
never heard
Nice
that. till
job,
today.
boys.
Thank
Nice
you,
job,
thank you.
Wheel. I got you.
Yeah,
All right.
baby, yeah.
We know what we're doing.
You really know Scotty B too, bro?
I do.
Okay,
absolutely.
yeah.
Look, I tell you,
I don't know if that was a setup.
No. Listen, as a matter of fact, and he probably wouldn't, care if I said it, but Scott Brown was when I was in ninth grade, he was either graduated or a senior. He was in Wheels grade, so I guess he had just graduated. But he introduced me to the Doors and like all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And, like we used to rock. And ironically, we went to see the Dead, and that was the night where Davis met Scott Brown.
Yeah.
Because he just was
right.
walking past us, and I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah.
But it was just the perfect setup to get, to get
Nice
you into
job.
that. Yes,
Nice
sir.
I mean,
job.
that was 31 years ago. I don't
Holy
really remember
mo-
that, but
I remember going to a couple of great. My
Yeah.
brothers were big Deadheads, and I remember going to a couple Dead shows, but I was more interested in the party in the parking lot.
Right.
That
Oh, wow.
was the thing. It's like there was plenty of times I went to the party and not into the show.
Absolutely.
I did see him a couple times though, and like some of that stuff they did with space and drums, like that stuff was pretty.
It's heavy.
Yeah, well, I only got to see him with Jerry twice, and that was the '93. That was with Sting, and the '95, the summer. Jerry died, and Bob Dylan fucking opened
Bob
for him at
Dylan.
that show.
And remember, there was
That's the one and only time I've ever seen Bob Dylan too.
Yep, me too. Good
That was
stuff.
great. Yeah.
All right, well, Ward Davis, you lead us off here.
No, I just wanted to kind of. Well, I mean, we have a lot to go over, but I know you through the suit making, the clothing. Me and you have a little bit of history because I made the Edgar Allan Poe body that we talked about in the first episode that we
Wow,
did.
nice job too.
Yeah,
Isn't that
Chris.
awesome, man?
Chris made the suit for that, which was an amazing suit.
Thank you.
It had a lot of. You'd have to see it. It had a lot of details in it that you wouldn't really notice unless you really paid attention with the purple cuffs and all that cool shit.
Right,
and
in
then,
person, it's real
Yeah,
slick.
it's a slick suit. And you did some research on that to get like a kind of a period specific style.
I kind of wanted to sort of look at things that he wore in the past and then sort of modernize it tastefully.
Yep.
But that was. You did a great job
Yeah.
with that. I mean, that was very realistic looking. Very realistic
It was
looking.
great.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My favorite
Great, and
part
that
of it was
bust.
the jacket.
I don't know if you ever
Oh,
saw
yeah,
that
there's
bust.
the bust.
He sculpted
Nice.
that bust too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of came from the original Dead sculpt. I remolded it into the live. That was a big bust. Then I scanned it, 3D print them, and make them.
Oh wow.
But you, like, people came in and asked for the Poe. Like, you made that suit for people, right?
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, we do custom stuff, so I can do whatever. But that was it was interesting after making that and then having it around the shop, and and I put his name in there and stuff, and you'd show people, and then seeing it on him, the whole thing. I told you, like the hair that was on him, the hands. I mean, it was impressive. When they did that wake that was there, I was talking about that with the tea lights and stuff. I was like, it was very well done.
Right.
Special.
It was an experience, and that's what they intended for it to be, like a reenactment of his funeral, just to kind of create the vibe.
On a slightly similar, different notice, I just went to the 229th birthday party for Johns Hopkins the other day.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which is kind of interesting to see, because I've been going for a while to the Clifton Mansion, which was his summer home.
Right. Yep.
You know where the golf course is and everything, and they've been doing a lot of work to fix that place.
Right.
They're peeling back 10 layers of paint with a scalpel to get to the original. I mean, can you imagine how tedious that work
restoration,
is?
Man.
Yeah, that's the mansion. Like if you go to the B&O and take the little like train tour through South Baltimore, that's the one that's up on the hill.
No. That's it's not that one. You're thinking of, I know what you're talking about. It'll come to me in a second. It's the one that's up on when you go up Harford Road on the right hand side where the golf course is, right there, that has like the 5-story terracotta lookout tower that's there.
The one Harford Road? Oh, yes. Okay, by Forest Park. Or no, not Forest. What the hell's the golf course over there? I know what you're talking about. I know where you're talking about.
It's Clifton is the golf course. Yeah, that's the spot. Anyway, I was just up there the other day, and I was like, historic Baltimoreans.
Yeah.
Restoration work is so like.
No, I think
that
I have
kind
to.
of work
with a scalpel.
Crazy.
With a
I
scalpel.
know.
That's crazy.
Well, all those
and magnifying glasses.
all those techniques. If you look into that stuff, those techniques are all tedious, like brilliant, but like you're like, wow. I mean, what
a
a
renovation
weird-
I wouldn't want to be part of.
No, it's amazing.
Peeling one layer of wallpaper off is bad enough.
But they peeled it all the way back to find the original that was behind it all.
That's crazy.
It's
10 layers of paint.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and plastered over it and all kinds of stuff. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's incredible. Well, so Chris, I know I'm kind of jumping here a little bit. Sorry.
But we all are.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's kind of what we do at Sanity Lounge is disorganized
We'll get it all out
chaos. Right. But so it's just occurring to me, Scott Brown, you and the band, you're rocking and rolling. Were you always a designer, or did that just come to you?
No, I wasn't, but I've always been interested in fashion one way or another. When I really think back on, I'm like, when I was in like 5th grade, I got a paper route so I could basically make money to buy my own clothes, because I was getting hand-me-downs from my 3 older brothers, and it was always kind of became part of who I am, even though, back then it was all just punk rock and skateboarding and stuff. It wasn't really high fashion or anything, but it was a style thing. And even when I was playing in the band with Scott, I started making some stage clothing and stuff though, because I started to kind of have some fun with that and sewing some things to just kind of the idea of the show part of the show, not just being in like jeans and a t-shirt and stuff.
Yeah, Scotty's always been real big into stage performance.
Yeah.
I remember him always being about that. Like,
yeah, he rocked out, man. He was we had a good time together.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So with that though, like, did you even at that point, like, you didn't have any official craftiness? You were just winging it, or
you didn't go to like Parsons?
Yeah, like
no,
you know what I mean?
No. That's the thing is like all I, for so long, all I ever cared about was just playing music. That was the drive, for a really long time, and the fashion thing didn't really become an official thing until I moved to London, which would have been like 17 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah,
that's where you really learned.
Yeah,
the craft.
I went over there and didn't even own a suit.
Right.
And but a guy by the name of Greg Smith, who lives in the UK, had headhunted me, and it said, are you interested in learning how to design suits? And I gave it a shot, and I'd found my calling. So that was pretty it was an interesting time for sure. And like even musically, you know, I was playing in a band. I was playing drums in a band called To the Moon, and I had recorded all my drum tracks before moving to London. And then while I was away, they worked on the rest of it. And so, you know, it's music and fashion have been kind of a big part of my life for a long time. You know, and I think they go really well together.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They're
100%.
kind of, you know, so but it's been different styles over the years and everything. But I like what I'm doing with the, you know, with the suits and stuff, and I've got to work with some interesting people, and I get to, you know, I'm happy I'm still playing music. I don't, you know, it's like
it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Glass Fault, by
Thank
the way.
you.
I mean, I only hear snippets, but
Yeah.
I love the style. It's the punk.
Yeah,
you
so
know,
that band is recent. I mean, that's a new band that you just put together recently.
Yeah, it's been like over the last year or so, maybe a little bit over a year, and we've had some different members, and now we got the right people together. So it's a 4-piece band, and we've been putting in the work, especially over the winter. We worked on recording this new record. It's 12 tracks, and we really got tight, and then and now we're playing like, you know, playing like 4 gigs this month. I'm going to pick up a couple over the summer and then release the record. And probably in September is what it's looking like, and see what happens.
Yeah, I got to see them at the first variety show you did here.
Right on.
And they were great.
Chris,
they slammed.
Thanks, man.
Before we move too far away, so 17 years ago, you just out of nowhere decide to move to London, or what's the impetus there?
Well, so I got married. Right. And then when I got married, my wife is a mechanical engineer for the government, and her work, she had they have this engineer and scientist trading program with other countries. And she had lived in England when she was in college and always told herself that she wanted to go back. And so this opportunity came up, this engineer and scientist trading program. And so she put in for it, and we got married in September of 2006, and we thought we were going to know by the end of 2006 what was going on, and it looked like it wasn't going to happen. And so then we started to go house hunting, right? Because we got married, we started looking around for houses and everything, and that kind of became our thing. You know, you're hunting for houses. It's a big deal. And we bought a house. It's the first house that I've ever owned. And then 3 days after we closed on it, we found out we could go move to London.
Wow.
And I was like, what is going on? You know? Yeah. So, and I was like, what does this mean? Because, you know, I was ready to settle down. Right. You know, I got married, I bought a house. I'm like, I think it's time.
Right,
I bought a riding lawnmower. I was
Right.
like, I think everything's chilling out. And then,
You want to go to London?
yeah. And then we were like, you know what? We're like, this house was built in the late 50s. It's been here since before us. It'll probably be here when we're gone. We should do this. So we went, and it was a game changer. It was 100% game changer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what, just one day she comes home from her stuff and you're like, hey, I'm a designer, or like, you know.
Well, it was interesting because I went over there, and, you know, I knew we were going there for her work. Right. And that was sort of the main thing. And it was a sweet deal. You know, they moved our stuff there. They paid for where we lived. Wow. She's making good money. You know, it's like all in all, it was really good stuff. And I went over there ignorantly, not knowing that it's like to be an American on a work visa is not really a great thing.
Interesting.
And so it was difficult to try and get an opportunity. But, you know, this Englishman, Greg Smith, he was younger than me too. He was like 10 years younger than me. And he called me up, and the way they did stuff over there, this was in the days of like the monster.com thing. You'd post up your resume and kind of it sort of worked like that. Well, you know, over there was a lot of stuff with headhunters and everything.
That's what I was wondering, like, how could he even, you know, go ahead.
He just saw my resume and was like, you know, and his job was to place people in job, you know, and that's how they got paid. And he called me up and we started talking, and, you know, and I told him my story, and he called me up, whatever, a couple days later, and asked me if I was interested in this. And the joke was, I said to him, I don't even own a suit.
Right.
You know, but I think that it was a good thing, because I wasn't programmed to what I thought was right. Being in another city, I was very open-minded, right. and then I had great teachers, you know, and like, that's the thing, is like, I try and teach the guys that work with me. I'm like, when you have a good teacher and you become a good student, then you can have the teacher become a great teacher and you become a great student, you know?
Right.
So, and that, like, I think I was just ripe and ready for that. You know what I mean? And
well, that's a rarity. Usually it's like, even at my job, I didn't start like the last part of my life here. About 10 years ago, I switched jobs. I had never done anything in that job. So when I started, I was very intimidated, but they all ended up loving me because I had no bad habits. I had no preconceived notions. I was just a barrel.
I mean, just knowing you in general, it still
Isn't
cracks
it
me
incredible?
up that you work for the county.
Right, Chris, it's not about me, but it's wild.
Like the fact that you drive the plow trucks
this is all right.
is fascinating to me,
fun.
knowing this man.
Don't worry about a thing. Don't worry about a thing.
That he keeps the highways clear and safe.
Thank you.
Is an amazing
That
thing.
being said, it is a benefit probably that you had no preconceived training or anything because, you know.
Well, sometimes it's hard to break people of those habits, you know what I mean?
Oh,
and
definitely.
and then when you realize you're like that you don't know anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're like it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, as long as you accept that you're like, you know, you're like willing to learn and you don't know anything, then it works.
Absolutely.
Well, it was funny too because over there I was the only American in the London office.
Nice.
So I had to kind of at first I didn't understand the English humor. You know, and like the self-deprecating.
Right,
and
they're very dry.
Yeah, very dry. And I was like, and I was also like, why are they messing with me? And then I was like, then I started to throw it back, and then I realized I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Right, they like you.
Yeah, it was like that's how.
why.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't understand this, you
Right.
know. But it was great. It was an awesome experience. So
that,
and then that was also when I kind of, you know, feel like I found my calling.
Yeah.
You know, that was an interesting experience to be in another country and like it also, you know, I had to really focus, you know, and I had to have the self-discipline because I could have went and just messed around all the time and stuff, but I realized that I was on to something and I had great teachers and learning how to make fitted clothes in England was before that wave kind of made its way here. So when I came home, the wave was coming across the ocean and I was primed for it. Everybody was trying to figure out how to make fitted clothes and I was already well versed in it because I kind of had something to prove because when you're calling up Englishmen talking about making clothes and you have an American accent, they're kind of, you know, you have to work a bit harder.
That credit.
Yeah,
you got to earn the street cred.
100%.
And you did.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's good stuff.
So that was like 17 years ago. So
Yeah.
if you don't mind talking, what were you doing before that? Besides, I mean, playing music,
just
hanging out.
You know, it was like let me see. I mean, I've like.
Yeah, you're such a journeyman. Like you have so many.
I've had a lot of jobs over my life.
right.
You know what I mean?
Were you a
It's
lifelong skater?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's well,
Yeah, that's fun that you do that. Like,
Yeah.
I would never have called myself a skater, but I was.
You
I
had
mean,
a
we used
run.
to go down to Banana Beach in Reisterstown on a regular basis and
Banana
use the
Beach.
ramps. Remember that place?
I do.
Oh, dude, I bought it from there in 1984. It's an original Bones Brigade banner.
yeah.
It's hanging in my garage. I've had it since 1984. I
Nice
had
find.
a Lance Mountain and I had a Kevin Staub board.
Lance Mountain.
And the fact that I
that's so-
don't
Lance Mountain
still
still
have
rips,
those,
man.
Yeah,
so
it's incredible.
does Christian Hosoi.
Dude, I met Hosoi in California.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I don't know, was it 2 years ago or something like that?
That's awesome.
It was
Those
like
guys
someone
made
who's-
it through some shit.
Him and Caballero.
Wow.
I got a picture of me with one on each, and I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
Wow, that's big
And
time.
the day before, I met Alva in a skate shop.
Really?
And I
Holy
was like, damn, this is like all of them just the coolest dudes.
Oh, I can.
And it's like,
Why wouldn't they be at this
Well,
point in
you
their
didn't-
lives?
Well, Hosoi had. I mean, he was in jail.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
he had a
I know.
he
But
had a
that's why I
real
said
long
those
run.
guys all went through some shit.
Right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
made
They're
it through it.
evolved.
It came out on the other side. Yeah.
The
Animal
soy
Chin,
story.
dude.
yeah.
That's one of the best movies
Yeah.
ever made. Man.
I know.
It's not at all, but it
is, right.
It is.
Well, that's why it's great.
yes.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Dude, that
great.
ramp was fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing is the guy who made that ramp is a guy named Tim Payne, and he has become one of the absolute best skate park builders. His parks are top notch.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, I've been to a bunch of them, and they're just Oh man, he's a master. But
Where do you
he
go?
built that ramp.
That did he? That's
That was
awesome.
one of the first things, when they knocked the section out of it.
Yeah. And they go through it.
Oh yeah. And he rips too, but it's
That's a big ramp.
oh yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. Big
One
stuff.
of my parks is the Lansdowne Skate Bowl.
Love that place.
Yeah. It's one
Love
of my-
that place.
man.
You work there?
I work.
He's
for
the
Baltimore
county man. He keeps it clean.
Do you? Thank you.
But yes, I work for Baltimore County, and that's one of my.
Oh my God, I've been going to that place all my life. I
It's
love
incredible.
it. Yeah, it's
I love
so
it.
much fun.
And it's just so nostalgic, and the art, and just it's just awesome. And actually, we are trying to, just get it revitalized and make sure it's looking good and stuff like that.
So I guess about I think it's been like 7 years now. I reached out to to my councilman.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Baltimore County. His name is David Marks.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I reached out to David Marks, and I was like, "What's it going to take to get a cement skate park built in Baltimore County?"
Yeah.
Right. And so he put me in touch with another guy, Bill Felter, who lives in Towson, who was looking to get a park built in Towson, and they're both in David's district.
Mm-hmm.
So we met up, all of us met up, and it was like, and then David started to run us through what's it going to be to get a cement skate park built, because there hasn't been one built in years, since basically Lansdowne,
Right,
which
which was one of the earliest.
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
East
So it was
Coast.
78. Yeah, so it's been around for a long time. So David told us we had to start a nonprofit organization, and then we had to go in front of Baltimore County Parks and Recs and get recognized as them as an organization. And so we did all that stuff, gathered up a great group of people, and there is going to be a new park that's going to be opening probably late this summer and fall. That's over in Rosedale. It's on Hazelwood Avenue, $1.5 million park, and it is awesome. I went over there the other day, and it's just super. It's going to be
They're
so
building it
nice.
now?
Oh yeah.
And you were
I'm the
part
vice
of it.
president of it.
Really?
Yeah,
Look
yeah.
at
So
you, man. This
Felter's
guy.
man.
Felter's the president of it,
Yeah.
and but we got together. It's 7 years now that but we got together and gathered a great group of people together and been working at it, and the groundbreaking on it was in like October, and then they worked on it all through the winter.
Right.
And I went over there like 2 weeks ago or something and looked at it, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so nice.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
it's really cool. But I love Lansdowne though. Oh my God, I've been going there forever. We're actually considering going and shooting a video for the band at the bowl.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so it's like I've played there a couple times. I've had a couple contests and played there before, and that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so fun stuff.
Yeah, that's all.
Well,
That's
one
fantastic.
of the other great reasons that we wanted to get you in is because the show itself, as we've told you, is trying to turn the tide, the story of Baltimore back to like we're working on it type
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like we do
Charm
have
City.
problems, right? But it's Charm City, and it's nothing.
It's charming.
Right? Look,
It's charming. I mean, it's got that.
yeah, baby. Look, New York, go
does.
anywhere you go. Everybody's got their own, assholes.
My
and-
family's all from New York. They're all from the Bronx.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the first one born here, and I've been going to New York forever. And there was a long time when
New York
wasn't.
had serious problems. I know, baby. I
It
mean,
was
Right.
bad.
I know.
It was real bad. My family's from the Bronx, so we go to the Bronx, and it was like, whew, it was rough. And then same thing, you go in Manhattan, it wasn't,
right. It's not the Bronx of today is not the Bronx of the
No.
70s and 80s.
I was thinking about Baltimore, and that it's like Brooklyn was 30 years ago. You know what I mean? And look at what Brooklyn turned into.
Yeah,
It's
right.
amazing. I mean, like you go to Williamsburg and you're like, what? This is,
Right.
I don't know that it needs to go that far, but we have the music and the art and the culture here. And that's the thing is like, that's why I'm very pro Baltimore and born and raised and bought a building from 1881 and restored it. I'm all in.
Yeah,
you know?
you said something the other day that was very cool. You said, look, I'm pro Baltimore and I put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like, I love that. I love
Well, that's the thing. It's like
genuine
there's
philanthropy. I love
Well,
it.
look, a lot of people, want to armchair quarterback everything, and they, I'm outside the Beltway and I don't want to go in the city. And look, I get it. It's got a bad reputation right now, and there's some reality to that.
Sure.
But place is very charming.
It is.
I mean,
I love going down there. I went over to the compound on Kirk Avenue like last week for an event that the Baltimore Beat put on. Melissa and Britt played there. Glorian played there. Like all kinds of bands were there,
Sure.
musicians, and it was a blast. It was awesome.
Now, speaking of good and not troublesome times in the city, tell people, or let's talk about the variety show. Because isn't that's in downtown?
Sure.
You went there last
starting
week.
now, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess about 5 years ago, I had this idea to do a variety show where I was going to live stream it, have a different band and comedians and artists. And we did it just as a total experiment. And we did 7 episodes of it. And it was fun, but we did it every Thursday for 7 weeks in a row, and it was kind of a lot. You know, it was kind of a lot of work. So, so I guess about, I don't know, maybe like 2 months ago or something like that, I put out a call for artists to display at my shop, and I got this response where I got 300 comments on what I posted, and it got shared 450 times.
Oh, I'm sure.
I know. I like the
Of course,
Chewbacca
Will
one.
Davis, right? Tell him.
From Thomas.
The caveman came from Thomas.
Yeah,
As soon as I saw
That's
it,
a Baltimore
I had to
artist.
have it. Yep.
Yeah. So that was so I put out the call for artists, and I got this great response. And then I was like, you know what? I've been thinking about revisiting the variety show, and I was like, you know what? I want to have the art up on the wall for a month at a time. And so why don't I make the variety show be the art opening for it? And so that's what we're doing. So we had the first one a couple weeks ago. The next one is, so it's first Tuesday of the month from 7 to 10 p.m. at Christopher Schafer Clothier, which is 2112 Alisana Street in Fells Point. So, and it's a free, fun,
variety show.
Yeah, it's a variety show. It's every month is going to be different. The next one is June 4th, and that's a jazz one. We have Brandon Woody playing, and he's a really talented jazz musician, and he's a local guy that's about ready to sort of really explode. He got a big write-up in the New York Times, and then things started to really take off, and he's getting ready to sign with Blue Note, which is the jazz label. Yeah, so he rips. So, it's like it's a way to, now that I've been in the building, I've been in there for 2.5 years, but it took a year to renovate it. And now that it's kind of, the dust is actually settling, when I'm doing these events, I'm doing them in the garage and on the first floor, and I can close off the shop and just kind of relax and just do something that is pro Baltimore and see the cool stuff that's going on here and get a great gathering of people and just do it for fun. And but it's a great party. The fridge is stocked, and I brought my grill down. We're doing a cookout. It's a fun time.
It's great.
The building is gorgeous.
Thank you.
The building is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's so slick, and the idea, again, it goes back to like it almost makes me cry. Like the idea that you put out, hey, look, I'm artist. I got an art gallery. I don't want anything.
Sure.
Yeah, that's huge too. You're not taking commissions or anything.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No,
and nobody would know. I'm just throwing this out there so people know. Like the only reason why I know it is because I was standing there, and he's like, I don't think he just allows people to sell art from here, and I'm like, yeah, but why? Like nobody would just do that, but you're doing it, and it's commendable, dude. Like,
I learned a while ago that when you give, you receive. And that was a really hard lesson for me, because for a long time, I felt like I didn't have anything to give.
Right.
And then it's like, and then once you kind of get it and you figure it out, and especially with running a nonprofit organization, they say there's the 3 T's, right? It's time, talent, or treasure. And so most people focus on the treasure part. Oh, I don't have money to give. And, and they think that's the main thing, which of course most nonprofits or whatever, they need money to survive, right? A nonprofit is actually a misnomer. You actually need money to make it work, right? But there's the time and the talent part, right? And so you need all of those to make it actually work. And so, if you can, if what I see going back to the whole thing with the variety show is that you have these people who they want to show their art, they need a place to do it. I have a lot of great clients that come in, and they're going to walk right by the art. And so it's like, and look, seeing a piece on your wall, right, that means it works.
Yes,
and so,
it did. So I bought art from that show.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like, look, that's Thomas Pierce's stuff, and it's very cool. And, it's like, and I'd pick who the artists are going to be for every month, and then I'm basically booking the whole thing. And it's just like people that reached out, and I'm finding some new people that I didn't know anything about, and it's a really good, like, it should be a variety. It should be a mixed bag. I want to have an eclectic experience where people are like, wow, that was really fun, and I want to come back next month, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be, it's probably going to be harder to find bands than it is to find artists at this point. Like, you probably have art to display for the next year, 2 years.
Yeah.
Like,
what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the show through December.
Yeah.
I don't really like doing stuff too much over the winter. It can be hit or miss.
Right.
You know?
It's such a nightmare.
Yeah, so I'll run it through the end of the year and then kind of just do like what worked. Did that work? And see just what I thought about everything. But but it's and I stated that in the original post. I was like, this is just an experiment. So but by doing it and not charging somebody, then it's like, then because I've learned that like some galleries, it's like you pay a pretty hefty commission on that.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's a business too. So, but this was just a fun experience to see what's going to happen with it. And I'm having a good time with it. And that's kind of the key.
Yeah. No, I had a great time. You got a great host too.
Yeah, DDM's great.
Yes.
Yeah, he's
DD.
fun.
Oh, right.
He's the host.
DDM, right.
I want to get him in here.
We're trying to get him in here.
So, yeah, look, that's the thing is like there's a lot of talent here. And, I like the idea that you're like, oh, wow, I checked that band out in a garage at a tailor shop.
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny.
That's
You know what I mean?
It's so...
very Baltimore.
The thing,
your
whole vibe is it encompasses what we're trying to do. That's what I mean. It's like you got the design. You're a clothier, which again is awesome. But I never thought I'd be interviewing a clothier and being genuinely fascinated by it. That number one. You got the skateboard community, you've got the band community, you've got the artsy community, and everybody is good vibes. And
well, I like having a welcoming environment. I grew up in a big house too. I grew up in a big family, not necessarily a big house, but there was always people coming and going, and I think that keeps it interesting. So that's in I love, when you get a good blend of different people all in the same room. And I think that makes it pretty fun. But there's so many cool people in the city that are doing great things. And
that's why we started this podcast.
Now,
look, I think it's great.
A platform I don't want just music. Bands, artists, cosplay is a big thing I'm into.
Really?
Yeah. Because I have a company that sells flexible paints for specifically for foam armor builds and stuff like that.
Oh, that's right. I got you.
So and then I make the props and stuff like that. I make xenomorphs, and it's funny, like going back to the English dude that like just kind of took you under, like that's just the way they are. Like
you got an English guy.
Yeah, my mentor, this dude Morrow, and his name, he goes by Reeve, but he's like, we've never met.
Yeah.
But I don't know what he sees, but he's like my mentor, but he's like 30 years younger than me. But he's a master sculptor, so he always gives me tips. Like we have a lot going on. Like we do 3D printing, sculpting, and we just make a bunch of cool stuff.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm digging the Dr. Teeth. Back there.
Look at this, Chris.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm a Muppet maniac.
Yeah, that's in our top 5.
So real quick,
so good.
It's one of the
so
greatest,
good.
man.
Oh my God! Rest in peace, Jim Henson.
one of the greats.
Yeah.
Wow.
Going back to when you come back from England, right?
I'm still there. I'm still at the Muppets.
Let it breathe.
I used to be. I tell you, it's like real quick.
Let
it
it
used to
breathe. Go
be
ahead.
7:30 at night. That show came on.
Yeah.
I remember like. You gotta have a bath and pajamas on to be able to watch the Muppets. Oh my God, that was the greatest.
Oh,
When we were in high school, I was all liquored up one night and ordered the Time Life, like, they send you one a month every episode ever of the Muppet Show
Really?
on VHS.
That's a good investment.
It was incredible, dude.
you
And all of a
still have
sudden, actually, I gave them to Caleb when I was in Florida, and my son,
Caleb
raised.
still have them?
No, it's VHS. But I raised him since he was 1. But he was in Baltimore. I was in Florida, and I would mail those Muppet videos to him. And But anyway, love the Muppets. I love that you love the Muppets. But going back to the clothing, because
A lot of sidebar action going on
I
here,
know.
gents.
Well, because all of a sudden, I
not
have
formal.
I have a few questions
Yes.
about you come back from England, and all of a sudden you blow up. Or
No,
did you have a plan or?
Well, so I had a really great experience when I was in London. And then I came home, and it is the fall of 2008.
That's what I was going to ask, how long you were there.
Yeah, so here's the thing is it's like, that's right when...
financial crisis.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's like, so that was hitting, that was another thing that came across the ocean, because I saw that going on in England, and that was the first time I ever saw in my life where people lined up outside of a bank to go and get their money out of the bank, and I was like, oh my God, this looks like the Great Depression.
A run on the bank, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy to go and see. And then, coming home, and that was finding its way over here, because and it was very challenging for a couple years when I got back home, and I was working for someone else, and it wasn't where I needed to be. And then I kind of realized, I was like, I need to do my own thing. So I kind of went out, out of the pan into the fire pretty much. But I had a lot of people telling me it wasn't going to work, you know what I mean? And no one wears suits in Baltimore. Oh my God, every negative thing, I was hearing all of it. And,
Right.
And I knew that I had this, it was tricky because I had this great experience in the UK, and I was worried that if I held on too long here, that it would water it down and it would take away from my experience there, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Absolutely. You lose the passion or something. There's
Yeah,
something
and-
lost.
Yeah, so it was really tough. It was tough coming back home, but then there was a lot of networking was the new buzz thing. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, I didn't know people that were wearing suits. I knew a lot of musicians and artists and everything like that, because those were the circles that I was in, and so I had to go out and find a whole new, group of people. And that was something that I, put a lot of time into, to get to know a lot of people, because that's the way to me, what I do is very much relationship based, because I want to know the person. What do they want the clothes to do for them, and where are they wearing them? And, and really make it personal. So, and so I just kind of looked at it where I was just making a lot of new friends all over town. And that's what I did, and just kind of was growing the business. And at the same time within a year's time, I'd started Christopher Schafer Clothier and Sharp Dressed Man, and I had a separate tie company with Rick Dempsey from the Orioles. I started all that in a year.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, I was done working for anyone, and I told myself that I never wanted to work for anyone ever again. Because I'd realized that working for people who didn't understand, and I would try to explain to people, I'd say, I'm a drummer, and I think about things as a drummer. And what that means is that you have to be able to do a bunch of things at the same time, different things at the same time, in rhythm with yourself and in rhythm with your bandmates. And I was like, if you're focusing only on my left hand and not my right foot, well, then and I'm like, look, I'm not saying I'm anything special. It's just the way I think and the way I do things. I have to multitask all the time.
Right.
And I really, I just realized, I was like, I got to do this my own way. And I named the business after me because I thought it was just going to be me. And now I've grown it into an actual viable business. And
That's awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun. But
you're a brand.
Yeah, it's weird when people talk about it, they're like, I'm wearing a Christopher Schafer.
Yeah, right.
Well, let me ask you this.
Awesome.
It's cool. I mean, it's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
This is a question my wife wanted me to ask, and because my wife loves fashion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But she was like, well, what happens, because, you're a big time designer, if you will. Say you have a client that's a rather high end client, and they come to you and they want you to design something or make something, and you taste wise don't like it. How do you handle that? Do you tell them, or do you, because money, you're like, I'll go ahead?
Well,
Nah,
does that
I mean,
happen
look,
often?
Well, here's the thing. It goes back to the relationship part of it, right? And I tell people that that a couple things. Number one is that there's going to be two labels inside of the jacket. The one is from the brand, and the other one is their name, right? It's like, it's it's one of them. But I said there's two ways to ask the same question. The question is, where'd you get that suit?
Right.
And it's either I want his number or what were you thinking?
Right.
And so, and I find that people who come to me, they get the aesthetic that I'm doing. And, but it's usually, some people come in and they have a clear vision of what they want. A lot of people come in with a bit of an idea, and then they start seeing how much is available to them because it's custom made. So you pick everything that goes in there. And then I'll get some people who come in and say, you do your thing.
Right.
You know, so all of them are different, but you know, I don't really like for wax stuff to go out the door. So that isn't really my jam. You know what I mean? It's like, it's got to be a thing where it's kind of like, you know, and this the thing is like, look, our stuff isn't cheap. So, you know, are you really trying to throw, you know, good money into something that's going to be sort of clownish?
I feel like they have to, if they're going that route, they have to trust you a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I get carte blanche to tell you, I'm like, that's not a good idea, or that doesn't look good on you. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like, and that's, you know, it's a respect thing.
It's actually a nice thing.
I mean, it's, you know, it is definitely a relationship based thing, 100%.
Yeah, I don't even know if this would be what's the wildest suit you've ever made?
A two-tone thing, you know, like
Two-Face, like Harvey Two-Face.
Yeah,
really?
like kind of half and half type of thing. I mean, I've done some stuff that I thought was going to be a little kooky that ended up being cool though. I mean, it's like I remember somebody that was getting married and they wanted a like a Joker thing, like it was purple and green vest.
Right. My kind of wedding.
And it was funny because this guy said that it was either going to be that he was going to do either like a powder blue tux like Dumb and Dumber or a Joker thing. And it was like, and she knew that he was for real.
Right.
And she was on board with it. And I was like, how can I do this where it doesn't look like, you know, goofy or whatever,
like
you know what I mean?
And
it looked very cool. It was like, did a shirt that had like these like, tone on tone skulls all on it and stuff like that. It was very cool looking. That's cool. That's been a good couple years, but, yeah, I mean, look, it's like, you know, it's a give and take on stuff, and it really kind of depends on also like how big's the wardrobe. You know, it's like if you do really funky stuff, you got to have a nice size wardrobe to back that up. Otherwise, you're kind of wearing the same deal over and over again. It sticks out.
You're a one-shot pony, or whatever.
Yeah, it's a one-trick pony.
Show up wearing the same suit everywhere.
Look, I've seen people do that, and I've told them don't do that, but they want to do it anyway.
Right. It's me. I have 5 T-shirts. I just wrote it. Anyway.
Yeah.
And let me. I saw a picture of you with Perry Farrell and Stephen Perkins, one of the greatest drummers of all times,
and Mike Watt too.
Mike Watt, right? You told me that.
and Peter DiStefano, all of them. So
unbelievable. Now, how did that just organically they call or?
No, I met Perry like 10 years ago. Jane's Addiction was playing at the Lyric. And a friend of mine, Tim Condor, who does stage production, was handling the show. And he called me up and said, hey, he said, there's a band in town that needs some clothes altered. And I was like, so who's the band? He said, Jane's Addiction. I was like, I'll be there. Dude,
that's so awesome.
And I was like, I was going to go to the show anyway.
Sure, right.
You know, I've like Jane's Addiction for so long.
Oh my gosh,
They're
Nothing Shocking and Ritual, those albums. Oh
yeah, that's the thing. So it's like I've made many suits for him since then. And then I went to California recently because they were doing, he was doing a farewell tour for Porno for Pyros because he kind of felt like it was sort of unfinished business.
Right.
And so, because Dave Navarro got long COVID, and it's been kind of dealing with that for a long time. And apparently, like they're going to start playing again, and he's back with them. But I guess Jane's Addiction had a gig lined up, and Perry said to the promoters, "Do you mind if I just do a Porno for Pyro show?" And they said, "Do whatever you want." And he did, and it kind of restoked the fire. And he was like, "I think I kind of want to sort of wrap that whole thing up." And so they took it on the road, and I made suits for him and for Peter. And went out and saw their opening night when I was in California, and then they played here, and I saw them again here, and they still sounded great. I mean, I like Porno for Pyros too; they're a great band, and that was cool. I actually like they were like jam backstage before they go on, and Perkins is playing. And I asked to get an extra pair of sticks, and I'm like doing floor tom stuff while he's playing with Watt and Peter. And I was like,
that's cool.
And I was like, this is cool.
That's incredible.
That's
incredible.
And Mike Watt is a super cool dude too. Yeah. Really like low key. And then you start thinking like, that dude has played with everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, because their original bass player, who I thought I was going to be working with, decided that he didn't want to go on the tour. He like lives somewhere up in California where he tracks animals and stuff. And he's like, that was many years ago, and that's not really who I am anymore. And so, which apparently Mike Watt was like the guy who kind of like jammed with them in the beginning anyway. So it was really cool. But he was he was cool to talk to, though. All of them were. I was like hanging out with all of them, and I was like, man, this is like kind of surreal.
What a dream come true.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
incredible,
sick.
Dude.
Yeah, good
when
dudes.
I saw the picture of Perry Farrell, I'm like, this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great run.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
he's
great.
still, man, he's still doing it. Jane's Addiction's going on tour this summer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're playing. Like I see, they're playing all over Europe. I don't know about
Is
it.
Watt playing? He's not with them.
No,
So who's
they.
playing bass with James?
So I think Eric is playing with them again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the thing is like they had this guy named Chris that was playing bass with them for years who was great. And then the whole thing was Eric came back with them and then Dave got sick. So it's then they had Josh who was playing for
Klingerhofer.
Yeah, he was
he's
playing with them.
great.
Yeah, he can step up and play with anybody.
Yeah,
man. He
what
rips.
I love that album. I mean, I love Chili Peppers, but that album, I'm with you, with him on it was
I
phenomenal.
never got in. I don't know what it is. It's like I like him as a player. I think like he definitely shreds, and I think he's sort of in the fold with a lot. But Chili Peppers did him a little dirty though.
Well, here's what they did, and here's the thing with that album. My wife rocked that album from open to close.
Yeah,
And not the radio songs on that album,
Yeah.
but the other songs on that album are good.
I'm gonna have to give it a listen because
it's really
at
good
some
stuff,
point,
man.
Chili Pepper stuff. It's like I really like them, and then I definitely tuned out at some point.
Sure.
Oh
I
my
agree.
God, I saw them play at what's it called, Godfrey's, I think, on Charles Street for Mother's Milk tour with like 300 people in the room.
Yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
bet
And I was like, man, they were on fire.
a
back
young
then.
Frusciante, a young Chad.
They ripped.
Right? Yeah,
They
man.
ripped.
I
mean, it
guarantee
was like
the
that
Mother's
was.
Milk.
It was a
that
great record too. It was like that's a solid record. That was right before everything sort of started to pop off.
Right.
And I remember seeing them, and I was like, "Oh, these guys are on it." You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
we saw him. Were you with us? We saw him in the '90s. It was
No.
at US Air Arena.
I know. I didn't go. I don't know
That
why.
was great.
I think
That was like
whack.
'97. That was a great show. And the one thing I remember from that is when Flea did his little bass solo. He had a disco ball on the end of his bass, and they shined a spotlight on it. They killed the lights and shined a spotlight right on the back end of his bass. And the whole arena just like lit up and
Yeah.
just
Nice.
started
That's a good
fucking
one.
going crazy because he was just moving all over the stage. I mean, it
Oh, wow.
was one of the wildest things.
Yeah, that's
I've
a
ever
great
seen.
idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a great idea.
Just a little disco ball.
Did you go to the Pink Floyd show
94 Pulse.
when they had the disco
Yes.
ball and it
Oh,
cracked
yes.
open?
Chris.
It was at RFK.
Yes, Chris. If you watch episode 1 of
Yeah.
this show, Sanity Lounge, you'll hear the story of me and Roy Davis, 1994.
Yeah.
It was
That was
a great
something
show.
else.
Yeah, we were.
We had on prism
We were-
glasses that
we
night.
did.
We were on.
You were full on,
hard
yeah.
Yeah, we
blotter
were-
acid prism
we were full
glasses with the disco.
That
ball.
was one of the
Yeah.
best experiences I've ever had.
Most
That
Yeah.
disco ball thing was cool
Yeah.
because I was like, "What is that?" Because the whole thing looked like a ship,
Oh my
and then
God,
it came
it
up
was
out of it,
incredible.
and it cracked open. So
Yeah.
I was like, "Wow!"
Yeah,
Oh,
and we
that's
were
cool.
all in our
It's
heads. I
incredible.
remember saying, like, and I don't know
Incredible.
how true this is, but we were like, man,
Just the way you're talking, like I know where this is going. Dude, where's my car?
No, look, we were like Dulles Airport had to shut down flights because of the atom splitting
because of
lasers.
yeah, I think
some
that may
shit.
have been true. Though.
I
I
swear
think
to
they had
you,
to
we
divert
used to-
air traffic
like-
because of those concerts.
Yeah, because they had these high tech lasers
yeah.
that I don't know, but
could like cut a
I
plane
love
in
the
half.
story. Yeah, I love the story, baby.
I thought it was because the big pig went flying
Right.
up in the air.
Right.
Remember?
yeah,
and then
yeah.
right, what was? Well, it might have been the
God.
acid. Yeah, we'll forget about it.
I
But
want
yeah,
to know if somebody still has that CD with the blinking light.
if it still blinks.
Yeah.
the pulse.
Yeah.
it was the pulse story.
Right,
yeah.
but I don't know.
know.
I don't
Good
know
question.
anybody that still has a CD.
So have you? Not that it's the only clients.
What kind of segue you got from there, boss?
What do you got?
Well, here I'll tell
We
you.
haven't gotten into drums yet. I got one
Oh,
more
yeah, we
question.
gotta talk about that.
Well, I was just going to ask
Hilarious
you.
conversation.
Is there any other noteworthy like superstar? Anybody that you've clothiered?
Sure. Yeah, man.
Anybody you'd like to name?
I feel like that
drop,
might be
or-
a long list.
Well, you don't have to
I'll
go
tell you,
all
it's like,
into it,
look,
but-
for me, it's like, I've had, athletes and stuff like that that come
nice.
through, and it's
I
like,
didn't
and
think about that.
and I'm like, I played baseball when I was a kid and stuff, and that stuff is, working with Dempsey was cool because I was
Right.
like, man, he had the World Series ring and somebody
That's
let you wear it
awesome.
and everything, and like that was rad. But for me, it's like I've worked with a lot of musicians from around town and stuff, but I have a friend of mine that his name is Pablo. He's playing bass right now for Glenmont Popes. Glenmont Popes are playing again, and
Oh, wow.
yeah. And so he had HR from Bad Brains living with him in Baltimore, right? And I'd see him post these photos of him like in DC playing softball with like Ian from Fugazi and stuff. And it was like random stuff, and like HR was wearing suits that didn't fit him right. And I sent him a message, and I was like, dude, you got to bring HR by my shop. I was like, let me tune up his stuff, and I'd love to meet him.
Yeah, right.
And I've made a couple suits for him, man. And I'm just like,
what do they have, an all-star baseball game with Fugazi and Bad Brains and stuff? That's
I know, it
awesome.
sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
Softball,
That's awesome.
hilarious. I
That's
know.
incredible.
Yeah, but I saw those photos, and I was like, there's a lot going on here. But I was like, the suits got to get tuned up. But HR is a really cool guy, and I've always liked Bad Brain stuff. I mean,
man.
he's very into all of his reggae stuff, and that's what what he's doing. But they've had a couple benefits for him recently, because he has some medical condition where he's getting like these really bad migraine headaches that won't go away, and they just had they had an all-star one in. That's when Sublime played their first thing with his son, was in Los Angeles, and then they did the other one in. I think they just did the other one in New York, or it's coming up. I think it just happened, but you realize how many people that they inspired.
They influenced
you know what I mean?
so
Oh my
much.
God,
Dude.
so many
Early
people.
DC punk.
Oh yeah,
huge.
Yeah, so it's like them, and so it's like I've been working. Been with those guys for a while, so it's like and I, even that's the same thing as like even people that are in this city, you have a lot of aspiring people, and there are some people like I recently, not that long ago, worked with the guitarist for Turnstile, and he's a really cool dude, and like
they're rocking.
Yeah.
Wow,
they're coming on.
My God, it's like that. This last record they did was it's like they got nominated for a couple Grammys. I don't think they took any home, but they should have. I mean, it's like that's a start to finish,
absolutely,
like, body of music, which that's the way I like to.
Inslee loves that band.
Yeah, well, I mean, they played Fallon, they're legit.
Oh yeah, man, they're touring all over the world, man. That's the thing is, it's like, and it's a Baltimore band. They still live here.
I know. We're trying to get Turnstile on Sanity Lounge.
It's like that Future Islands too.
Yeah, you should. We should reach out to Daniel Fang as a drummer. They all live in Charles Village, man.
Well, they're the bridges we're trying to make, Mr. Christopher. Yes, because that's what I'm saying. It's like we're trying to put Baltimore in a better light.
We need Chris to finish the renovations back here.
Right, we need.
We can handle bands now.
Right.
We're expanding.
So you've been a lifelong musician or drummer. Anything else?
Mainly drums. I mean, there was a stint when I was a singer in a band, as you heard earlier, and but I've been playing drums pretty much all my life. Once I kind of when I was a little kid, somewhere there was like a photo of me like playing on like a Mickey Mouse kit with like the one-piece jammies on Christmas, and then it was like but my older brother Ray, I have 4 brothers, and so my older brother Ray, he had bought a drum set from our neighbor, lived across the street, and then I was a little kid, looked up to my little brother, and he started playing these drums, and then I started kind of like sneaking playing his drums,
right.
And then I ended up going and buying the drums off of him, and then got into bands when I was in middle school and high school and all that good stuff. So it's like,
but you never did you didn't do band or snare drum or anything like that?
I did that stuff in like elementary school.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I did that stuff, but it was just it bored me. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's the thing is, it's like when I really think about it, I'm like, the effect that MTV had on me was profound. Because that was sort of when it was exploding, and you're watching these little movies, and they're and then I was like. And then I realized I was like, I can do this, and I like this, and so really chased that down for a long time, and there's nothing like playing music. It's when you get to especially as a drummer, when you're playing with other people, and that feeling, and it's like and I'm still playing the drum kit that I've had since I was 15 years old.
I love that set, man.
Yeah, that's
such
cool.
It's psychedelic.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
psychedelic red is the color. Yeah.
It's
a pretty drum set.
It's an awesome
Thank you.
drum
Yeah,
set.
when I saw that, I fell in love with it when I was a kid, and thank God I've been able to hold on to it throughout all the years, because there were some times when I thought she was going to have to go, and I held on to it, and then probably, it's been maybe like 20 years now. Yeah. 19 years ago or something like that, I sent it out to this guy up in Pennsylvania who restores kits.
Wow.
And he's like, but he was doing stuff for like Lenny Kravitz and Charlie Watts and all this stuff. He's like out in the middle of Pennsylvania, but it's like the real deal.
Legit.
Yeah, and he like redid all the bearing edges and just cleaned everything up. And that's when I started to make it a bit more into like a hot rod. It's all like DW 9000 and 5000 hardware, and it's like, but I have some vintage cymbals, some newer stuff. It's a good blend of everything.
It's beautiful.
But I feel like it's like, a hot rod, and that's like I'm not totally into doing resto mod stuff for it, but it's like when you tastefully modernize things in a way, because I think like I used to be vintage by necessity because that's all I could afford.
Sure,
right.
Right.
And now, like, when I think about it, I'm like, I got a lot of vintage stuff in my life, but I'm like, I think stylistically, though, they just don't quite make things the same.
They don't
stylistically or as well.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
that's a fact.
Nothing's built to last because capitalism realized that it built to last is not where the money's at.
No.
Return.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
return.
my parents still have the same refrigerators in their basement. They literally, and they still function.
Yeah.
Joanne and Frank.
But we've been in our house 2 years, and our refrigerator's about to explode. I think.
Well, look, your shop, when we were in it, man, that furniture, it's fucking exquisite.
Thanks,
in
man.
there. It looks so slick and vintage. It feels vintagey. I don't know if that's the feel you're going for, but it feels like I don't know. The furniture was
rich
slick.
mahogany.
Rich mahogany everywhere.
No, I think what you said, like
fucking elevator, like a
vintage
beautiful
modern.
wood.
That was Anchorman reference.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I got it.
No need to tell us, Chris. We're
Okay,
movie
just
maniacs.
making sure.
No, like your shop, like you kind of, I think you said it, like it's vintage modern.
Yeah, it's
Like it looks vintage, but it looks modern. Also
well,
at
some
the
of the
same
stuff
time.
is actually vintage. It's like when I was telling you stuff, you're on the second floor. That was my wife's grandmother's furniture from the '60s, and but I think that there's like a nice blend of all of it, where there's there's modern things and there's tasteful, but it's a building from 1881. I think if I tried to go super modern on everything, it wouldn't necessarily work.
Sure, and don't get me wrong. I think it's slick as shit. I'm not disparaging it.
Right
I think
on.
it's phenomenal.
Thanks.
Yeah. And it's not vintage in it's yesterday's news. It's slick vintage. It's like I don't know if that's even. I came up with it. It's hip.
Did
vintage.
that elevator work when you bought the building, or did you fix that?
No, it worked. Yeah, that's how we moved everything upstairs.
That's amazing.
Did you see it's right by the door?
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible hookup to move furniture into a Baltimore building. I mean,
It's an old elevator.
It is an old elevator. Yeah. So, Chris, movies.
Yes.
You
Wait, I wanted to ask one thing. Like you were talking about your drum set. Did that go over to London with you?
It did.
Did you play? Did you play a lot? I mean, did you play in any band over there? Did you hook
No,
up with anybody?
I jammed with some people, and then I kind of realized I was like, I was getting into the zone with the suits, and I was like, this is working. And my bandmates here were working on a record, and so, like I said, I was kind of realizing I'm finding my calling with something, and I was like, I'm going to focus on that. But we lived in this real cool house over there. It was what's called an Oast house, and it was a barn that was for drying hops. Because where we lived, so first we lived right in London, and then we moved southeast of the city, and it was still within the beltway there, but it was this microclimate that was perfect for growing hops, apparently. And so it was like this misty rain that would fall there. But this building had this 3-story round room. Right. And so the top floor was just a big cone because originally the rectangular building attached to it would have been where you would have had put all your hops in. And then the roundel would have had a fire on the first floor. And on the second floor would have been drying racks, and you would have put the hops on there. And the third floor was the cone to send the smoke out the window, and it got converted into a house at some point in the 80s or 90s or something like that. And my point in all this is that it's like it had this cool round room. Hardwood floor, and I was like, I'm gonna put my kit in there.
Wow.
And it looked so cool, but it sounded crazy because the sound was slapping back off of everywhere, and I was like, I moved it into a rectangular bedroom. I was like, it looked incredible, but the sound was sort of like a parabola, and like it was just coming at you from everywhere.
Right, it's sonically
not pleasing.
Right.
It was like the slap back was crazy, and I was like, I can't do this in here.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's nice.
But yeah, she traveled with me over there,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, it's
I always think drumming is the most. I mean, everybody always acts like the front man, the lead guitar guy, the whatever. But fact, drummers have the most responsibility in the room. Period. And if you're back there on a big night and there's a huge crowd there, you are time.
Yeah.
And if you get in your own head, if anything, you have the most responsibility in the room. But it doesn't feel that way if you're doing it right. If you're doing it right, you're floating on a cloud of titties.
Yeah.
And
it's fun. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like, it's still, look, it's the universal language. You know what I mean? So,
rhythm.
Yeah. Well, look, you just made me think of one of my favorite when he said movies is Better Off Dead. When he's like,
oh my gosh,
the universal language, love.
Right. This is all snow.
French fries, French dressing.
That's so incredible.
I love that movie. I actually have a black Camaro that's like that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like
okay. So great segue.
Yeah.
So that's Savage Steve Holland. Okay, who directed that movie, Better Off Dead, and his other film or one of his other films was One Crazy Summer. Oh, God. Okay, with John Cusack and the guy who played Booger, who was in Better Off Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Curtis Armstrong.
Yeah,
Booger.
God, I was just going to say, I would never remember
I was
his
also
name.
a paper boy, so the $2 reference is
$2. Right. So Chris, so do you have a favorite movie? I mean, or do you have a, actually, sorry, what's the first movie you remember seeing in the theater? Might date
E.T. or something like that.
Wow. Okay, that's 2 for E.T.
Yeah, maybe E.T. But I just got to say one of my favorites is probably Stand By Me.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Great pick, Rob Reiner.
That or, you know what I've been finding? I've been finding myself lately. Think to myself, I'm like, I definitely have watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High a million times.
Right.
And I'm like, I used to be Jeff Spicoli, and now I find myself feeling like Mr. Hand.
Mr. Hand.
Because I feel like everyone's stoned. I feel like every time I walk outside, I'm like, it just feels like that.
But I think everybody is.
But the
for
greatest
most part.
line, though, if you're here and I'm here, doesn't that make it our time?
Where'd you get this jacket?
That's a great one.
I mean, it's a Sean Penn at his best.
At his best,
I mean,
early Cameron Crowe.
Ryan.
Oh,
Keep
yeah.
in mind,
Yeah.
And
Phoebe
he
Cates.
wrote it. Like,
I mean,
dude, Phoebe Cates. That is the heat check of the year,
Yes.
of the century. One of the
She's a
greats.
goddess back
And
then.
unfortunately, a young Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
a damn young.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
But great movie. Young Judge Reinhold
Yep.
was in that.
Yeah.
Your Forrest Whitaker,
Yes.
who went on for Bloodsport.
Oh, I love Forrest.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that whole thing with the, because my brother had a Trans Am.
Oh, yeah, right,
You know, and it
right.
was like,
What was Forrest Whitaker's name?
my dad
Jefferson.
can fix it. Yeah,
Jefferson.
Yeah. He's got an excellent set of tools.
I can fix it. He said, "You can't fix this car, Spicoli." He's like, "I can fix it." That's incredible.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
So is that like your comfort movie? Is that that's the movie you could just throw on any time?
I haven't watched it in a long time. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's like, so around my house is that, I have a couple kids, and we have watched a million times Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I love that movie.
Dude,
oh my God.
my son,
that's a good
my
one,
son
too.
loves that movie. My son and my
So
wife,
good.
and I just watched it.
Yeah.
like 3 days ago. They had
the first
it on.
time?
I've only seen bits and pieces.
Did you
of
watch
it.
the whole thing?
No, because I had to go. I had
my
practice
God.
or
I
something.
gotta
like that.
say, I don't know if I've ever seen that movie.
I love.
Do you like stop animation?
Yeah. Oh,
It's the
yeah.
best.
Oh, yeah.
But-
That's
and
the
it's
thing.
Wes
It's
Anderson.
Wes Anderson, and it's the
Really?
It is so. And
Did Phil Tippett do the stop animation?
No, I thought it was Aardman. Was it Aardman that did it?
I don't think it's not. I don't think it's Phil Tippett, but
But it's, oh my God, and the cast is like, I mean, it's George. It's my favorite George Clooney part, because it's like,
that's what he says. My son's like, it's the greatest George Clooney role.
yeah.
of all.
I'm gonna have
You
to
know
see
what? You know
this.
what it is? Because I feel like in every role that he does, he always looks like the cat that ate the canary.
Yeah, right.
And in this one, you don't see him, you know.
Right.
So it's like, and you just hear his voice, and he does a
It
great
works
job.
with the
Oh my
Fox,
God! And
right.
Meryl Streep is his wife, and Jason Schwartzman is the kid. I mean, it's like
Right.
Bill Murray is the Badger. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna
and
have
it's
to check it
based
out.
on a Roald Dahl book, I
Yeah.
think. Or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's
okay.
a
Like
legit.
yeah.
Right, like Matilda and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's legit.
It's great. That's probably, you know what I mean. Oof. that might be the all-time favorite.
Interesting.
It's like
That's a good
because it's like we've watched it so many times and
Yeah.
it's so good, and
So
it's
that-
like and it holds up. I mean, it's like I can still watch it with my kids,
Right.
and it's like and it's still funny. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like there's just a lot of zingers in there, but Wes Anderson is something else.
Yeah, well, he and I were talking about the concept of like the comfort film of like
Yeah.
just the movie throughout the year. Mine is always my whole life, and this is gonna make me feel dumb. I actually have probably 3 or 4 of them. What do you think I'm gonna say?
I don't know. I have 3.
I was saying,
But
I
Titanic,
one in
is it?
particular.
no, I can think of 3 right now off the top of my head. That
What's
back
number
in the
one?
day-
You were almost there. What is
Back
it?
in the day when I was blackout drunk every night or whatever, I would fall asleep every single night to either Mary Poppins
Yeah.
or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate
Yeah.
Factory.
Oh.
And I'm talking like I don't know why it just dun, dun, dun,
Sure.
dun, 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 in the background it just made me feel safe no
Yeah.
matter what shithole whatever I was in mentally.
What is that still now? Like, do you still now just throw it on?
I'll tell you, every Christmas Eve I watch Mary Poppins.
Right.
I make the kids are like, oh,
But they'll love that one. They'll be
But I
like, I
can't-
remember watching that.
But
Yeah.
now, and I got the box set of Willy Wonka years ago that has a legit
get on
golden
VHS or
ticket. No,
He
it's
has
a
a laser disc collection.
Listen, I have a huge. Yeah, I got a lot going on. Half of my Laserdisc collection was given to me by Jeff Myers.
Right.
Just so you know, shout out
Right.
Jeff Myers.
Yeah.
Love that guy. But anyway, the Willy Wonka thing, I've fallen off every.
so good.
But it's so good. Wilder,
What do you think about
I mean,
the remakes?
So I go like this: Johnny Depp version.
I love the Johnny
I
Depp
like
version.
it. It's so I love weird.
Yeah.
So to me, the
But
fact
Tim Burton
that,
is amazing. I
Yeah.
and that's what I mean.
yeah.
It's like I was appreciative that they didn't try to carbon copy the Gene Wilder one.
Right.
I
Yeah.
thought that was commendable. That didn't bother me at
Yeah.
all. It bothered a lot of people. I
Hold
thought
on. Well, Gene Wilder. I mean,
You
It
can't.
was.
listen, you made me think of another thing. Young Frankenstein.
Oh yes.
Walk
yeah.
this way.
one of the greats of all time.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
I was like you.
No,
it-
I can talk movies all
Oh,
day. Chris.
yeah, that's the good one.
I cut my teeth as a lunatic fat kid who
Yeah.
couldn't relate to anyone who worked. My first job was a video store for years and years. All I did was watch movies when I was a kid, and then found drums, and then drugs and drinking.
Yeah.
So that's what I excel at is movies and drums, not drugs and drinking.
Well, you excelled at it.
You still haven't figured out what my comfort.
Yeah, what is it?
Hold on, don't tell me. Am I going to be able to?
We don't have. You want to sit here? We'll
Let's
just
hear
cross
it.
our arms
I'm
again.
going to give you
Dude, me and Amanda watch it almost every Sunday. The Hangover.
part one.
Oh yeah, Amanda's never even seen 2 and 3 because she doesn't want to believe they even fucking.
That is so
exist.
Amanda. That's such an
Like,
Amanda.
I'm
yeah.
like, do you want to just go ahead and watch them? Like Paul Giamatti and
Two-
John
two is
Goodman's
funny.
the-
Yeah, I
they
mean,
are.
you
John
know.
Goodman's like the villain in the third one.
Right,
no,
right.
she's like, no.
I mean, the third one, it was enjoyable, but it was a little upsetting.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it was a
no.
little sad.
No,
Like,
no,
it-
we watch The Hangover almost every week.
Interesting.
It is,
So mine's Mary
See, I
Poppins
can't
and
watch
Willie.
movies. Like, there's only a couple that I could watch over
but that's
and over
one
again.
of them. Garden
Interesting.
State, that's another one.
That was a good
That's one of my
movie.
favorite movies.
Invented Velcro.
And then I
oh
never
my
saw
God,
Garden State.
You've never seen
Remember
Garden
Dick
State?
Face? Every time we talk, I tell you this.
Dude, it
and-
has
and
one of
you
the
do
best-
that.
You
It
gotta
has
put
one of
a
the best
note in your
soundtracks
phone.
ever.
I keep a
I
movie
know.
list.
God.
You get so
man.
upset. I know, and I'm upset with me. I'm telling you, I love Zach Braff. I don't know. I have no excuse. It's in.
Oh my
you know,
God, that's a
I'm
young
piece of
Natalie
shit.
Portman
I don't know what to
too.
do.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, dude, Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
So she was in town to film
that's a great story. Now.
Lady in the
Already.
Lake.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm in it.
Are
You're
you
in the movie.
nice?
I hope so. If I made the cut,
Wait
yeah.
a minute, that
So what,
hasn't
did
come
she-
out
It's
yet.
coming out in July.
Did she-
Is
July.
Nicole Kidman in that too? Is that
No,
movie
she was in
doing here?
Lioness. I think she was in. I think she was in that, but no, she wasn't in this.
I was
but it's-
working at a house over in it's off of like Joppa, like but near like Towson and 83 in that neighborhood. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, they movie crews were everywhere, and they were this house there. This giant house was supposed to be a house in Martha's Vineyard, and they were filming scenes for this
Oh.
Nicole Kidman movie there. I can't remember the movie. I don't think it's out yet, but I thought it was Lady in the Lake. But I guess
No,
not.
Lady in the Lake is
Natalie Portman.
Yeah, and it's an Apple TV thing, but it's
Right.
like what a production.
Well,
they
what
It
is she
hasn't come out yet?
directing it, or is she just in it?
No, she's the star in it.
gotcha.
And
But,
Chris Schafer.
Nah, dude, it's like I got to be on the
That's so
set.
nice.
I got to be on the set for like half the day, and it was cool though. It was like I understand why people get like hooked on the whole
Right.
acting thing because every detail was right on, and
Right.
there was a moment that the cameras weren't there, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. But I was like, it wasn't like I was. It just kind of happened. You know what I mean?
Right. The
And-
vibe is real. If you're
yeah,
there,
it was cool.
right.
I mean, they had like, one of the things that, the detailing of it, like it was this spot that was set up and it was in this office of this guy that runs his club and everything. And they had a fish tank there that was totally like 60s looking. The heater, everything was like period correct in the room. And you're looking around at it and it was a cool experience. So I don't even know if it'll make the cut. I don't know, but it
That's
was like,
awesome,
but it was cool. It was like this, it was supposed to be recorded downtown, and then they had that whole thing where they shut the set down.
Right.
And so I was supposed to be filming down there, and it got bumped, and I thought, I guess I'm not going to be on it. And then they called me back, and they had a whole soundstage thing set up in this gigantic warehouse down by the airport. And so I think that was like, when was that? A year and a half ago or 2 years?
Yeah,
ago?
that sounds
Damn,
about
that's
right.
It was a
fun.
while ago.
No, I'm gonna have to check it out now. Like Outcalls did a song on the soundtrack for the movie Crisis.
Oh, cool.
So I watched it because they came on, and I was like, I watched the whole movie. I'm like, where the hell was that song? And then I did this whole like sleuthing thing in my brain, and it ended up being this grocery store scene in the movie Crisis. I mean, dude, Gary Oldman's in it, Army Hammer, which I didn't know about. All
Your
that
Army
nonsense.
Hammer.
Evangeline Lilly, but it's a great movie. But their song's playing in a grocery store when Evangeline Lilly walks in looking for her son or something.
They
It's a
wrote
crazy
the song
scene, but
for the
yeah.
movie. Like
Yeah.
the director called the Outcalls and was
Yeah.
like, "Look, I need
It's not the Outcalls, dude.
Damn it! I even interviewed him for fuck's sake."
That's like the what was that social media movie when it was
Right,
like it's not the Facebook,
Right.
it's Facebook. It was the Napster guy told him
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Social network.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
movie.
So
Fincher.
yeah, we're gonna have to pay attention to Lady in the Lake when it comes out.
Yeah, it's going to be on like Fridays or something. I think
Right.
mid-July or something like
Would
that.
you just
So
walk onto that gig, or was it a casting call, or it was just extras needed?
They
or
called
something
me and
like-
asked me if apparently Laura Lippman, who is the one that wrote the book, is like, I guess she wrote me into her last book.
What?
Whereas like there's something about it where it's like whoever this character is in her newest book is like must go and get his suits from Christopher Schafer. And like a
Really?
friend of mine sent me a photo. I was like,
Dude,
oh, that's really cool.
that's
Yeah, I've never
incredible.
met her,
Yeah, that
but
is
it's like
cool.
she seems super cool. So she I guess they, it said, hey, look, he should play this role. And it's like the role of a tailor. So it wasn't like some big stretch thing. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
that's
and
cool.
yeah, but I was like, it was just a cool experience. So
Wait a
whatever
second.
comes of it is going to,
Okay, wait a second. So to be clear,
Yeah.
somebody wrote a book
yeah.
and that you don't know.
Yeah, she's from Baltimore.
I dig it.
Yeah.
And then used your name as the clothing designer in the book.
Yeah.
And that's so slick. And you just find out about it, and you're like, "Holy shit, that's cool!"
And she's
And
like, I'm
then-
going to have
and
this
then-
character, this person, play himself in the
Well, right,
movie
and then it
version
just
of my
happens
book.
to
She knew I
become
was a
a
sucky
movie.
actor.
And then all of a
He better
sudden,
play himself.
That's
man.
amazing.
that book happens to become a movie. Like, what a great!
You're playing
like,
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Again,
There's they better not fucking cut that.
right. We
Yeah.
love serendipity
Right.
here at
Yeah,
Sanity
Serendipity is
Lounge,
great.
and
Yeah,
that's
it's a
you know,
beautiful word too.
It
Isn't
is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So, what's really interesting, right, is that when they were filming it downtown, it was on Park Avenue, right?
Right.
And they made Park Avenue look like 1960s Baltimore.
That's
and it was
awesome.
like, and it was very detailed, very cool looking. And the situation happened when they shut down the whole set, and it was said that it was this, someone pulled a gun on him, and it was this whole kind of story.
I
that-
remember
I
that
do
story.
remember
and
Yeah.
the thing is like the story wasn't actually true
Right.
as far as what happened, but the
Yes.
story spread like wildfire because Natalie Portman was in
Yep.
it, and they shut down the production on the set. And I was in town that day, and I was driving my old Camaro, and I was like, I'm going to go by the set because a friend of mine had posted a video of walking down the street and what it looked like, and I was like, I'm going to go down there and go see what it looks like. I pull up with the Camaro, and in the spot that I would have been filming was where our original Sharp Dressed Man was on Park Avenue.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, that was unbelievable. And I told the director for Lady in the Lake that, and she goes, that's when you know you're in the right place. I
Right.
was like, It's great,
dude. That's what
but
I mean.
I couldn't believe it. It was like life imitating art, imitating life, or something.
Yeah,
you know,
the rhythms of
around.
the universe
That's
lead
cool.
you back.
Yes.
It's good stuff.
Let's get into that a little bit. Tell us about your vehicles.
So I like I only own one car that I ever bought new.
Yeah.
It's a 2010 GTI, Volkswagen GTI. It's the third one that I've owned, and it's stage 1 tuned. It catback exhaust, cold air intake. It's a little rocket. That's
Nice.
kind of my that's like my daily driver, and that's I bought that in 2010 when I started the business.
Right.
And that car is really it's a great car. You know what I mean? It's a turbo 4-cylinder, but it handles so well. It's super cool. So bought that new. Actually, backing up, and I was thinking about even driving here, is that when I drove here today is my 97 Ford Ranger
Right.
pickup
That's
truck
so funny, right?
that I've
Right.
had for almost 20
Well, I
years.
said to Chris, I was like, "What's he going to show up in?"
Well, this is the thing. I've been driving that around everywhere because I
Right.
was out. I was out in my place in West Virginia, and that's
Right.
why my fingernails look like
Oh
this.
my
I've been
God,
working on
we'll
kinds of
talk
stuff.
about that a little bit. Too.
So, but my truck is getting ready to turn. Is like less than 500 miles away from turning 200,000 miles.
Right.
So that's the vehicle I've owned the longest because that was when I was like just first kind of like getting my act together, and I had a GTI before that. I got rear-ended on the Beltway by a dump truck, and it totaled the car, and I wanted to go buy a Camaro and go kind of crazy with it, and I was dating my wife at the time, and I was like, I better be responsible because she's responsible.
Right, she seems
so,
right.
So I was like, so I bought the truck, and hey, I've been driving it for almost 20 years, you know.
Right.
So yeah, the truck gets a good amount of use because I'm into motorcycles and drum, and you schlep it around.
Right.
I've used it for plenty of gigs and everything. But
Yep.
when the business started kind of getting rock and rolling, I went back and I went the car that I'd been wanting for a long time, which is a '68 Camaro, and so I got one of those, and it's that car is, I mean, it's.
Now, have you always been like a gearhead, if you will, or?
Well, I've always liked things that go fast. Yeah,
Right,
so it's
right.
like, but this is the most powerful by far.
68
this,
Camaro?
Yeah, it's got a 454 that's fuel injected in it, and it's just so powerful. It's so raw and just it's and I feel like it's like driving stick shifts is like playing drums, you know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
it's like instead of clutching gas and hi-hat and bass drum, it's but it's very rhythmic and musical, and even like in that car, there's no radio in there. The sound of the motor when you're downshifting, when you're going through the gears is like, it's music to
it's
me.
the hum of
Yeah.
life.
100%.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
awesome.
like, and it's, oh my God, it's the note that, it's beautiful. So that's the muscle car. And then I guess, so I've had that for a while. And then during COVID, I have a tendency that when I'm not working as much, I spend money. You know what I mean? So I have the time to start looking, on eBay, Marketplace, and finding all kinds of, bring a trailer, all kinds of places that it's like, you
I have a trailer.
well, that's,
Go get it.
well, you start hunting around and you're like, oh, I like that. Well, I'd got this 77 Jeep Cherokee, right? And it was kind of, it was like it needed body work and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I got that, and then that became a project as well. And that's like it's got a small block V8 in it, and it's like lifted at 6 inches. And my friend Paul, who's over on the Eastern Shore, did all the body work on it. And it's like, so that's kind of my,
project.
well, no, it's like she's pretty cherry.
That was sitting
now.
outside of the variety show.
Yeah, so that's like that thing is same thing. That's got this great exhaust on it. This guy put this exhaust on it. It's it's what's called a chambered exhaust. So when it's like, so the back pressure, it like gurgles when you let off the gas, and it's like it just sounds super sick.
Josh is going to be.
I was gonna say, I can hear my
Ben Davis
boss
too. He'll
My
be
boss
enjoying
Damon
these.
is if he's listening.
Give
to
another
this,
shout out to Benny D.
Yeah.
He's going
right,
to be. He's
Benny
going to
D.
be enjoying this
It's
part of the conversation.
that's the thing. Is like that's and then the other vehicle is a '65 Ford Falcon van.
Yes.
and that's just got a little 6-cylinder that's right between the front seats, but it's but that's got a glass pack on
Yeah,
it.
that's a cool.
I love that thing.
It's got a nice tone to
Right,
it.
when I saw that, I was like, holy
I was going to
shit.
drive that out here, but I
That's
already
what
had
I
the truck
thought.
behind
That's
it.
what I thought you'd have.
Well, it's kind of that's
right.
like the band vehicle,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I'd been driving the truck all around, and I was like, and I had it kind of behind in the garage, and I was like, I gotta go, so I just jumped in the truck and went.
such
But
a-
cool
That's
van.
it.
Yeah, the van
we
is fun.
We checked that out at your shop that day.
yeah, that's the same thing. It didn't look like that when I got
Right.
it, but it was.
It looks phenomenal.
Yeah,
now. I mean,
well,
it
that's the thing
looks
is like
slick,
this goes back to this goes back to Paul Nelson, who's my friend who does the body work on him, and he does a great job. So yeah, that during COVID, I'm buying these vehicles, and then you kind of get into them, and then you start realizing like, oh, this is a project, and this is a project, but that was kind of how I was like spending my time and money was doing
Right,
it
all
because
of a sudden-
I was also like, I mean, business was like really rough.
I'm
You know what
sure.
I mean? And so,
It was an uncomfortable time.
oh
for
yeah, it was like
everybody.
so yeah, it gave me the time to kind of gather up the vehicles that I'd always, because the thing is the van was a like I'd said from the Better Off Dead
Yeah.
reference,
Right.
like I was a paper boy, and
Right.
so when I was a paper boy, I had on my route there was an orange Ford Falcon van. It was a '67 that was the Aguilars had on Minerva Road. I remember exactly what I see it. I see it all the time.
Right.
So I'd see it twice a week delivering the newspaper, and I was like, that thing is so funky. It's cool. And I always it was always in my head that I wanted one, and I wanted to get one when I was younger with my band, and and so it was always in my head. And then, I started looking around, and I'm on these different groups for, different vehicles, and I saw that one, and I got that, and, it took a bunch of work to be able to get it done, and I have a really good group of people, great mechanics and body. So it's like I just, but that thing is fun to drive. It's three on the
man.
tree, and, it's like, and I can put my gear in, and that's what I use to go out and play gigs. I can put my stuff in there and go drive out. And that's, man, I'll tell you, we played a gig 2 weeks ago at this place called Reverb. It's a small club in Baltimore, right? And I'm driving home from there. I'm driving the van. We'll be getting all this crazy rain, right?
Yeah.
And I'd go at 83 and I get on 695 and I'm going towards my way up in Perry Hall. And I'm only a couple exits up and there's this car that's sitting next to me, right? And I'm like, it's dumping down rain. And I'm driving that thing. I'm going 50, just chilling, right? And his car's next to me, and then he goes up and gets in front of me. And when he gets in front of me, I don't know what happened, but it's like he starts fishtailing. And I mean, he's a car length in front of me, right? Fishtailing, and then goes across 3 lanes of traffic.
Oh,
and
God.
Whacks the Jersey wall, sparks
shit.
flying up in the air, and then starts coming back towards me.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, oh my God. And I was just like,
Please don't hit me. Please don't
I
hit
could
me.
not wait to get home that night. You know what I mean?
You were
And
just like, ah.
it was because like if I jerk the wheel, then I might start doing the same
Sure.
thing or
Right.
spinning around, So, but that one of the things though with the van, it's got disc brakes on it
Yeah.
now, so that is nice. She might not get anywhere too fast, but she stops.
Yeah,
pretty
right.
good, you
That's
And
know?
what's
luckily,
up.
you just breezed past that
I guess
situation.
I guess it
I could
it
not
was
believe
okay,
what I
guess.
saw in front of my eyes. That was
That's
crazy.
crazy.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's I got some cool cars right now. Maybe a wiser man would probably have a new vehicle, but
Right.
I like the stuff that I'm
Yeah,
driving. They
it's-
all
yeah,
kind
you
of
like what
feel,
you like.
sound different, and they do different things.
I like
and-
that you put thought, like I don't put thought into every single purchase. Now, if I bought cars, I guess I would, but I love
Yeah,
that
I mean,
you
would buy what
really,
you like.
well, you got to understand the LEP, baby. Like I'm practical. I need
Yeah.
it to work and not break down. Now,
Sure.
if I have
Don't
money,
buy vintage vehicles.
right, if I have
If you
money,
had money, you'd
eventually,
buy another Trans Am.
No.
You would never buy
What
another
year Trans Am?
Dude, he
I
had a Trans Am.
I had a 1991. Well, it was a whale tail, right? It was a weird 1991 maroon Trans Am,
Yeah.
and it was badass.
with the
Yeah,
vanity
T-top.
tag Bonham. We just called it
Yeah.
Bonham. That was
This
that
was-
was the car we
Ah.
drove around.
I had it
in.
in probably 1993, but I was never. I was never into cars or speed or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was a gift from my father, and I loved it.
Dude,
And-
we used to see how fast we could drive down Brown Road, dude.
And look, I know I loved it, but after that, I was kind of like, I just want something that'll hold my drums and not break down
Sure.
and handle in snow.
See, that's the thing. That's why I've been driving GTIs for years, because it does
Yeah.
that. And like, I lived in the city for a long time, It has a hatchback. You could fold the seats down. I could fit my kid in there, park it easily.
Yeah.
It's like
It's easy to park.
and,
Right.
and it handles great. That's why I've had that's why I've had 3 of them.
Right, and
Yeah.
so it's like if I ever get capital, I'm going to buy drums. I'm going to make a movie theater.
Sure,
I'm
yeah,
not
I
going
agree.
to. I don't think I'm going to invest.
It's
in
got to
a-
be.
Right.
That's the
You
thing. Is
know.
it's got to be
that's
a
what
thing.
you like, dude.
Right,
Like I
right.
collect 6-scale figures and make collect
Absolutely.
shit like this.
And don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, I love I'm a wannabe comedian, so I always say like, "Well, are you a gearhead?" But it's not as disparaging as it's just the way
Yeah.
I talk. I love cats. Like I said, my boss, a lot of my best friends, our buddy who we grew up with, Ben Davis, still works for Motor Week.
Yeah.
Now
Oh,
he's
really?
not the Ben Davis
Yeah.
that called into 98 Rock all the time, who works for Motor Week. He's Ben Davis, the guy that test drives all
Yeah.
these cars
Oh,
for Motor
wow.
Week.
But
And-
he
cool.
became a producer and started making the segments. But he used to be the dude like you'd see the car driving on a country road, and he'd be the guy driving it. We'd be like,
Look, we're in high school. This he was older than us. He was always like, I think he's 5 years old. He's wheels
Wheels
He might
age,
be your
yeah.
age, yeah. But he was always a lunatic, and he worked for Motor Week,
Yep.
and they'd let him drive all the
but
time.
now he
what a
still
job.
works for Motor Week. He
Yep.
just lives down in Carolina.
Awesome guy. Love him.
That's cool.
Yep. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like having like cars that drive nice.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like that's the thing is like the Camaro is a muscle car. Is it use all your muscles to drive?
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
It's
like,
work almost, probably,
yeah,
to drive that
yeah,
car.
yeah. But
Well,
it's fun to it's fun though. You know what I mean? It's like that same thing. Like I have kids and I take cruise around with my kids in it
Right.
and stuff. And like the Jeep, I have the tag where I can drive it out on the beach
Wow.
in Delaware. And like
That's a good idea.
yeah, it is weird though, because you like, there was a photo that was of my grandfather and like in my great aunts and uncles. I guess it would have been like in the early '60s or something like that.
Right.
And they were up on Long Island and they would go out and go surf fishing and stuff. And like, I just always remember seeing that photo of me like, that's so cool.
And
then-
now you're kind
now
of.
I'm doing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
thing. Is
awesome.
it's like it's the stuff that kind of burns in your brain.
Absolutely.
But it's pretty fun to drive the Jeep out on the beach, and then you kind of back it up to the ocean, and you unload all your stuff, and you're boop, set.
That's
ready
incredible.
to go. It's fun.
And, yeah, going into non-functioning vehicles. Talking about your place in West Virginia, you bought
Yeah.
a bus and turned it into like a hippie hangout.
Yeah, that's what I've been working on the
Like,
last
that
couple of
shit's
days.
cool.
What? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like,
it's
what
a-
is that bus? It's not like it's a bus, but
Yeah.
it's not.
It's
not
a
like
1950 Chevy. Yeah, it's a 1950 Chevy, and I always
just
like
towed it out of there.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was filthy. It was. I mean, it was a mess. It's like, but I just been I worked on it all day yesterday.
Yeah. Oh
So
really?
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's like it's.
I
I mean,
follow
it's like
that.
it's
cool.
it's going to be really cool.
Well, what is
when
that
it's
on your
in,
Instagram or something? Or how do
yeah,
you know
I
about
posted
it?
like some videos of it and
for
stuff
you.
like that.
Nice.
But it was. I'd always liked these. Long time ago, I had a school bus, right, that I bought with some friends, and we were going to go take it across country and all this other stuff,
Yeah.
and then ended up selling it to a guy, and he, but I've always liked, I don't, for some reason, it's like, just like funky vehicles,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I'd always like these buses that have the round back on the
Yeah.
back of them. And, and they're kind of hard to find,
Yeah, right,
you know
they're
what I
old.
mean?
They're
Because it's like,
getting-
they're old, and so, I found this one, and it was like 10 minutes from my place in West Virginia, and it was actually a school bus from the county that I'm in out there, which I just think is great. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah,
mean? And
again.
well, my buddy in West Virginia, Gene, is like in his 80s, and he helps me with a bunch of stuff on the property. And I said to him, I was like, you probably rode on that bus when you were a kid. And he's
Right.
like, yeah, probably did.
That's
So-
awesome.
So, but yeah, we had to like, it had to get flatbedded out of the woods. It had been in the woods for like 50 years and like covered in like,
Wow.
Yeah, it's
funk and,
crazy,
like,
dude.
it's like, it is pretty gnarly. And then I don't think there'd been like raccoons in there, auto
Right.
parts. I mean, it was
Right.
pretty
It's
gnarly.
a project.
Yeah, but I'm into it.
Yeah,
That's the
but
thing
it's,
is,
they're
like,
not trying to get it running.
Yeah,
No,
right,
it's,
right.
It's a
Yeah,
project,
it
but
just-
it's just give it like
yeah, it's
functional,
the
like
hippie
so you
hangout.
can just hang out in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that's the thing.
It's
What a
So
great
cool.
idea.
Yeah,
It's I did a bunch of work yesterday.
It's the
Yeah,
ultimate tiny house.
I mean, you
Yeah,
pretty much.
that's the thing. Is like I put a there was like right on the driver's side. It was like it got dented in real bad,
Mm-hmm.
and I cut out the metal that's there and then replaced it with treated plywood, and put in a 10,000 BTU air conditioner. So I'm like, yeah. So I'm like,
Perfect.
yeah. So it's like and then it's like I parked it right where there's like power right there,
Right.
and so Yeah, it's just
That's
going to
a
be
great
like the
idea.
it's
Yeah,
like the
it's
hippie
cool.
hangout
I
is what
like
I'm
it.
calling it. That's the thing. So it's going to be
That was cool. When I saw that project, I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, and I'm into it. That's the thing
Yeah.
is like, I mean, I was out there in like, I was out there yesterday working on it, and like it's been warm recently,
Yeah.
but it's good to be like you're outside and you're messing with this stuff, and you start thinking about what you want to turn it into, and you're kind of like, it's weird when you are the curator of something that was older, that was there before you were even born. You know what I mean? And then you're like, what do you really own? You know what I mean?
Right,
It's
it's
like
heavy.
it's like you kind of, and I like a lot of stuff. Again, back to the aesthetics of things that were before my time, because I just think that they made things to look kind of cooler,
Yep.
and they were in style was a big deal.
Right.
You
It
know?
wasn't so cookie cutter or,
No, I agree.
or stale
Vehicles
or
looked a lot
something.
better back then.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some beautiful stuff that's made
Yeah,
right now,
there
but
is,
most of it
but-
is like, how aerodynamic can we
Yeah,
make it,
right.
and everything like that. And I just think that like there is something about, and even with the bus in particular, like it's American made steel. If it was modern made, it would be totally roached out.
Right.
So it's
It was built to last.
oh yeah, that's the thing.
That was
I mean,
my favorite vehicle was my truck.
Dude,
Frank's
your
Wild and
fucking
Wonderful
truck-
Ford, man.
This
That was
this
a '78 Ford F-150.
yeah.
That was that was so fun.
So look, we call him Whoa Davis because he's a lunatic when he drives. So we'd always be like, Whoa Davis, So I remember
That's
this
debatable
truck.
still, though. That's a matter of opinion.
I don't know about now. Yeah, now he's got kids. He's not
Yeah,
like he
I'm
used to
still a
be. But
maniac.
yeah, but I'm telling you this: we used to drive down 140, and I'd be in my Trans Am, and he'd be in front of me in this big ass truck with an orange stripe and like,
Oh yeah.
and he would be going 80 miles an hour, and he'd be on the passenger side of the truck. And nobody's driving.
It had bucket seats, so
Right.
I just slide over
So
and I
he-
just hold the wheel and I got my foot on the gas
at 80, and he's sitting in the passenger side
with
and
my arm out the window.
Right, it's like he's a lunatic, man.
It was fun.
It was
fun.
fun.
I just did it for the reactions, and
Right.
I got the reactions.
you got
People would
good
just
at
pass
talking
by,
about
just
it,
like,
yeah.
But
what-
the problem was,
what's going on?
Not the problem, but whatever. But he got good at driving like that. So like he would do that for like a long time.
That's impressive,
And
yeah.
It's
Oh my
just-
God.
It was fun.
I had a 72 Datsun 240Z from Japan,
Datsun.
right-hand drive.
Really?
Wow.
And yeah, it's like I got that from my brother, and then I wrecked it like an idiot. But it was that thing was slick.
A
though.
right-hand drive.
Yeah.
How did that? How weird? Like, is it as weird as one would think?
Pretty
or-
much, yeah.
Yeah, I
it's the same
feel-
thing. It's like I like kooky vehicles.
Yeah.
So it's like, but you're shifting with the left hand.
Yeah, I bet
Yeah.
you that's a whole.
We just
different
jogged
one.
the memory. He's gonna have a Datsun next time we see him.
I know.
Yeah, like it was a. That was a.
He's
I
gonna
mean,
start looking.
I mean, that was a. That was when the Japanese cars they were going for.
They
it.
were
I mean,
noteworthy.
Yeah.
Well, they were over engineering their stuff, you know what I mean? Because they didn't have the marketplace, you know what I mean, that they do now. But that was a pretty fun car though. That was it was quick.
Datsun.
It was quick too, yeah. That it was like straight six in it with a cam, it boogied, dual carbs on it. It was quick, it was light. So
And was it a tragic wreck or just?
it was a dumb night of doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
I came off an
had
off
several
ramp,
of
and the
those.
tires were not great on the
were
back.
arguable.
Yeah, and then then she did like a spun out. It was like a skateboard trick, but because it ultimately spun out and then did a grind,
And then it ollied.
it ollied, but it did like I did a grind backwards across the curb, and I was like, oh my god, this is not good.
Right. You
Yeah,
did a
that
rail
was-
slide.
Yeah, it was bad. That was yep.
Yeah,
So
well, I had several of those.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. We'll get into those in another episode. So, to bring it back home, you have the Distinguished Gentleman, which is motorcycles.
Yeah.
We just did that this weekend. Yeah.
And so, aside from the cars, the skateboards,
Yeah.
the buildings, the Virginia stuff, the clothes, the English studies,
the sharp
and
dress.
the
well, I'm not a
sharp
kid
dress.
anymore.
Look,
well,
babe, I know
maybe
you
that's
look
not-
great.
yeah,
Yeah, don't
thank
get me
you.
wrong, you look great.
Thanks, dude.
You're still rocking in a punk band, of
Yeah,
course. You're
yeah.
doing a weekly variety show.
Monthly now. Monthly.
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 Yeah.
yeah.
Big difference. Helping people, kind constantly. And then you're also doing the Distinguished Gentleman, which is a motorcycle ride.
Yeah, so it just took place this past weekend. I've been involved in it for years. It's a international fundraiser where about 120,000 people around the world were riding motorcycles all suited up for charity that went to Men's Health for prostate cancer awareness and screening and suicide prevention. And so I've been involved in the Baltimore ride for, I want to say maybe a decade or something like that. And so this year we started the ride. We've been starting the ride at my place for years. This year we started it and ended it in my ride, and we had my place rather, and we had like it was like 50 or 60 bikes in it, and everybody all dressed up, and it was cool. It's a lot of great people, and it's a fun time. It's quite a spectacle actually to see all those motorcycles and people dressed up, and you're riding through Baltimore, and people are looking at you.
Yeah,
like,
right. What an odd sight. But cool.
It was great, and a lot of I have a 66 Triumph motorcycle, and that's what I was riding, and I love that bike. It's a cool bike.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. I had a 68 years ago, and I took that to England when we lived over there, and then when I was starting the business, I had to sell it, and so I kind of I tried to get it back from the guy that I sold it to, but he would never sell it to me, and then finally I found this 66, and it's kind of like, it's real similar to
the
68.
Same vibe.
Yeah, it's black. It's like just kind of, it's a less is more thing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the same thing. It's like, it's about being in tune with the motor, and that's also like a little bit of an oddball kind of thing, because that was when you shift on the opposite side. The brake and the shift are on opposite from American stuff, and before they standardize everything. So it's like you got to be present. Right. You know what I mean? It's like I think I like doing things that make me present, because otherwise your mind starts wandering about everything else. And so things that you're doing, that you're in the moment and you're doing them and you're using your hands or whatever, whatever is kind of things that interest me or keep me interested rather.
Right. Well, the impetus for the show, a lot of it originally was that I am very heavy into drums and rhythm and paying attention to the rhythms of the universe without sounding too loony. But I really do believe that that there is something to paying attention to rhythms everywhere. Your gut, nature. You're in England, you follow the rhythms that just feel right. There's something about it. It's been around since the dawn of time, and it'll be around long after us. And if we pay attention to rhythm, I feel like everyone would be a lot better off. And you have fared really good by paying attention.
Thank
to
you.
rhythm.
And look, what I think about that all the time is the same thing with when you're driving. I think that there's a rhythm to driving, and it's not necessarily the speed. It's what's the flow of what's going on. And, I did a lot of driving today. I drove in from West Virginia and then running all over the place and coming back out here. And I'm like, it just seems like why people get in the left lane and do the speed limit or less is crazy to me. It's like, and when someone's up, move out of the way.
Right.
Because look, sometimes I'm driving slow vehicles. I get in the middle lane or get out of the way. But when you're driving, let people move, because there is a rhythm to things, and it's like, not necessarily like how fast can you go somewhere, but give someone the space to do that.
Have the wherewithal to just get out of the way.
When I was coming here, right, and 695 was jammed, I saw somebody driving an Infinity that had new driver stickers on it, and I saw them get on the left shoulder and go flying up the left shoulder. And I was like, that's not a good idea. Yeah. I was like, that could, if someone moves or pulls out or whatever. But and I was like, then you start thinking like, is there a pregnant woman? Is there going to the hospital?
Right. Maybe it's an emergency.
That's the only. And I tried to think about that for a second. Like, what is going on there?
No.
So
I've
probably usually nothing.
Yeah, I was just saying.
But
lately,
sometimes, but you never know.
You don't know. That's the thing. Is like there was they just looked like they were going for it, and I was like, oh boy.
These past few years, a lot of these pricks, pardon the expression, do this thing. I'm serious. They do this thing where you buy a new car and then you put your camera on the dash and you Instagram you driving like a fucking asshole.
Oh boy.
Over 100 miles an hour, and every kid. I mean, I have people I know, younger kids, who do this. And
that's a new thing.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I never did.
It's a new thing, putting it on social media.
Putting it on social media as the run, right. But But I see that shit all the time, man. I'm out there on those highways, and everybody's passing on the shoulders, and it's like,
see, that's why I like driving cars that are fast. Because I'm like a very defensive driver.
Right.
My wife's like, you're offensive driver. I'm like, no, I'm defensive. Because when I see him coming up on me, and I'm like, nah.
You're a chess player.
And I'm like, especially, I'm like, the GTI is like a little bit of a sleeper. She's quicker than you think.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I see you coming up on me. I'm like, nah. And when, oh my God, the way that car sounds too. It's got a beautiful exhaust. And when it's like fat pipes out
you
the back.
can control the situation.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I'm like, look, I'm like, you're not cutting me off, and then we're both getting into an accident. I'm like, but it's the same thing. Like I was coming in on 70, and like, get over.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like if someone is hauling going on the road, and plus I'm like, let them. If you're driving something fast and you got a spot to open up,
right,
man, walk the dog. You
yeah.
know what I mean? It's
no,
like,
I'm usually that guy. But when I look in my mirror and I see somebody like rolling up on me, I fucking get over it every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing, like, because it could turn into a bad situation, you know?
Yeah, it's terrifying. Accidents, all that shit.
Yeah.
It's funny because going one more time back to Damon, my boss, if he's watching this right now, he's bitching. bitching right now because...
Are you a bad driver?
I don't think so, Chris.
Oh!
Now listen, now hold on now, Chris. Now, here's the deal. I am a flake. Okay.
Yeah.
I am not a speed guy, as we've established anymore. But what happens with me is I get off work and I get in the zone, baby, And so I cruise up 70 every day. I leave my job.
Right.
And I'm rocking up 70 in my head or whatever. I'm in the zone. And every day, one of my bosses... I end up getting bitched out the next day by either Damon or Alan because
they're stuck behind you.
Because I'm in the left lane.
Hey, you're that dude.
Look, and I'm in the zone. But listen, Chris, the difference between me and every other asshole out there is I'm aware. It's a dickhead thing. And the minute I'm like, holy shit, I'm in the left lane, I get over.
No,
you know what I'm
realize
saying?
you're doing
right.
it.
I'm just in the zone, baby.
Yeah.
Like it's how I roll. It's
Well, look, 70 should probably be 3 lanes. You know what I mean? That's the thing is the fact that it's 2 lanes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you,
and it's 70 miles an hour. Like it's fast
you need some
and
room.
2 lanes.
Yeah, you need some room to do your thing on that road for sure. So, you got me thinking about Lansdowne. Actually, I'll talk to you about that separately.
Sure.
But I love that place.
I do too.
Yeah, it's very like it's. Oh my God, I've been going there.
Barrow
forever.
Lane.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The place is. Oh man, it's cool.
I know. My wife actually grew up. She grew up on Bigley Avenue.
Right around the corner.
Right there, Lake of the Woods Boulevard.
Who?
Paige.
Grew up in Lansdowne?
Yeah, Bigley Avenue. She moved to Carroll County in 8th grade. Maybe 9th grade.
I grew up on Ingleside Avenue.
Yeah.
In Caton. Yeah.
So does she skate?
No. She went to Riverview Elementary or whatever, right there.
Yeah, right
Is
down
that
the street.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's had its rough times, but it's still a great place, and it can be great. You know, I mean, that's the thing. Is like, there's greatness out there. There's good people there.
Yeah.
There's good stuff there. So
That place is legendary. I mean, it's like everybody skated that place.
yeah,
for
it was
years.
weird. We talked to my cousin. He did a lot in Baltimore in the 80s and stuff like that. But he was good friends with these guys, the Ferreros, and Dave and
Those
Nick.
Pontiacs?
No, that's a.
It wasn't that a Fiero.
No,
That was a Fiero.
not to be confused with a Fiero.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny now that you say that. I remember Mickey.
They look like my Nissan Pulsars.
Mickey
Remember
Ferrero. When we were kids, I always would say Mickey Fiero. And they're like, no, Ferrero. But anyway, they built a half pipe in their backyard.
Where was
right
that?
in Westminster, right off of Old Westminster Pike,
Right.
and. Like a lot of heavy hitters in the 80s would come because they'd go to Lansdowne.
Yeah.
Because on the East Coast, it was like one of the only games in town for street or bowl riding.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
But it's got a lot of history, man. It's
Sure
good
does.
stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, love that
Well,
place.
do you have anything else? Are you good? Or?
No, I think we nailed everything, and that was fun.
Yeah. Now, Chris, it's because you're a drummer. We always give the drummers the option. If you want, you can sit down, lay down a groove or two.
I want you to. I'm sure you want
yeah.
to.
Is Wheel cool with everybody playing his kit?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, he
Wheel
is.
has it. Wheel has it mic'd up, and we've got the cameras set up and everything like that. And you don't have to get fancy, but just groove, feel a rhythm, and get on it.
Yeah.
And that's how one episode. Let's not forget
the last thing. Oh, I don't know if this is what
Go
you're
ahead.
going to say before we wrap it up. Like, I'll have it on the end credits, but tell everyone how they can find you, support everything, what they can do.
Yeah. So the website for the business is ChristopherSchafer.com. And then for the band, it's glassfault.net. And then we're on all the social media platforms as well. And that's where you'll find out about the variety show, which is the first Tuesday of the month. We post all that stuff on all the socials, so it's a good way to check that out. And that's we've got a good, some great artists and comedians and bands as well. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm glad that we are doing that again. That's gonna be that'll be a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time, and we'll share everything that he's doing on our page. Also,
cool.
so
Thanks.
Absolutely, man. It was a real pleasure.
it was good talking
build
to
a
you
following
guys.
all around.
Stay sane, Baltimore.
Yep, good time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, Baltimore. You can find us at www.sanitylounge.com or on Instagram at sanity.lounge.
Keep listening and subscribe.
Stay sane, Baltimore.